From getting gashed by a bear to dangling from a rope in the snow, here are the top 9 people who survived getting lost in the wilderness. Number 9, Hugh Glass. Remember The Revenant? If you guys haven't seen the movie that Leonardo DiCaprio won his Oscar for, then you need to do it. Just make sure you finish watching this video first. The plot centers around Hugh Glass, a mountain man who was the oldest of the brigade in 1823. His men were hunting for game with him at the head of the group before they encountered a mother grizzly bear and her 2 cubs. Notoriously protective, the grizzly was startled and ran forward and attacked Glass. He was left with such severe injuries that the men believed that he would die from his wounds. So the traders left him for dead in the middle of the forest, left for the sport of the wild animals and for the nature to take its course. It's good to know who your friends are, right? However, in an act that solidified his story into American legend, he survived his wounds and traveled through the wilderness. He eventually found his way home and limped the 250 miles to do so. He lived off of whatever he could find in the woods, such as insects. With the injuries he sustained without any treatment, it was a wonder he survived at all. He had a broken leg, lacerated flesh all over, and deep cuts in his spine that revealed his ribs, leaving him prone to infection. People were actually shocked that he survived, thus why the movie adaptation is called The Revenant, meaning a person who has supposedly returned from the dead. Don't worry, that's the last spoiler alert. Number 8, Aleksandr Kovalev. Moving into more modern times than the 19th century, just last year a father went missing in Siberia. The 54-year-old man went missing just outside of his workplace, and once he was reported missing, authorities found his abandoned truck. 2 weeks after he went missing, he returned and walked out of the taiga. The taiga is a swampy coniferous forest between the tundra and steppes of Siberia and is a region inhabited by tigers. These tigers are 10 feet long and can weigh up to 500 pounds. There's also other woodland creatures like bears and wolves. However, Aleksandr has still not said how he survived and says that he's too traumatized to think about it. He hasn't even told his family. His daughter said that Kovalev was taken to the hospital from the stress of the situation, and the only physical injuries they could see was from the frostbite on his legs. Whether he'll recover from this situation and reveal what happened is yet to be seen, but we wish him all the best in the speedy recovery. And now for number 7. But first, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you don't miss out on the latest videos. Number 7, Lisa Theris. Our next story features a student who went missing in the wilderness for almost a month. When she was found, she was completely naked and covered in scratches. Lisa Theris went missing and was presumed dead after she had been in the woods with 2 men who later turned into suspects during the investigation. However, when she was found, the conclusion was that Lisa was most likely under the influence of methamphetamine, which explains her weird behavior of leaving the woods completely naked. She said that she had survived by eating berries and mushrooms, but hasn't yet revealed how or why she got lost in the first place. What is even more strange is that one of the men that she was with said that the other man had shot her in the head and thrown her body into the creek. Officials say that it is likely that all 3 were under the influence of drugs and thus prone to hallucinations. In any case, they are somehow miraculously alive and no one was murdered. Number 6, Eric LEMARQUE. Eric LEMARQUE was going up in the world of snowboarding when he went missing. He had competed in the 1994 Olympics for France and was snowboarding professionally. However, on a snowboarding trip to Canada, he made the mistake of ignoring the warnings that the officials had given at the slope. They said that the mountain wasn't going to be safe due to an approaching storm. He continued down the slope anyways, not knowing that he was about to hit a cloud of fog. He took the wrong turn within the fog and went so far away from the planned route that he ended up in the wilderness. He was found 8 days later after his mother had reported that something was wrong, concerned that she hadn't heard anything from him. He had lost 40 pounds and was severely dehydrated. At the hospital, doctors gave him the terrible news that the snowboarder would have to have both feet amputated because they had been so severely damaged due to the freezing temperatures. This was devastating for him due to his profession, but he has prevailed and tells his survival story proudly. Number 5, Liang Shengyu. In April last year, an adventuring couple from Taiwan were exploring the area of Nepal, home to the Himalayas where many have gone missing before. They made their way down a river in hopes of finding a village and somewhere to stay before they reached the edge of a waterfall and couldn't climb back. They were trapped there for 47 days before they were found. When the rescuers found the pair, they believed that they were both dead before 21-year-old Liang spoke weakly. His girlfriend, Lu Chen-chun, had sadly died 3 days before. Liang was in really bad shape and had maggots. He was starving and had to live on just water for the entire time. They were only found when Liang's father traveled out to Nepal after they hadn't been in contact and organized a helicopter to find them. It was a miracle that Liang survived due to the lack of food and harsh temperatures. Despite losing his girlfriend, the Taiwanese man is grateful for a second chance at life and was seen smiling in the hospital, finally safe and sound. Number 4. Shannon Fraser. On to Australia now. This Queensland woman shocked and bemused rescuers and locals alike after her survival tale. In 2014, Shannon Fraser went missing on September 21st at a swimming hole in the south of Cairns. There was an 800-hour search for the woman who was eventually found by a farmer 17 days later. Similarly to Lisa Theris, she was found completely naked aside from a plastic bag that she had used in order to cover herself as much as she could. She was severely sunburned and had lost 16 kilograms. Fraser revealed that she had fled into the bush after having a fight with her fiancé. She had been walking to gather her thoughts, and when she realized she was lost, she sought higher ground. Many locals believe that perhaps it had been an elaborate prank engineered by both Shannon and her fiancé. It was strange that all she had was a plastic bag. So many questions, but the injuries that Shannon had were too intense to be questioned or doubted, so police closed the investigation. She was taken to the local hospital and treated for her sunburn, which was so severe that it was bleeding. Number 3. YOSSI GHINSBERG. You may have heard of this name before. YOSSI GHINSBERG, an author, entrepreneur, and motivational speaker. However, he has also been known to have a few adventures of his own, one of which, similarly to The Revenant, has been adapted into a motion picture featuring Daniel Radcliffe. The movie was titled The Jungle and was released last year. It depicts the struggles that Ginsberg went through when in 1981 he found himself lost in the Bolivian jungle. During his time of fighting for his life, he had to perform self-surgery when 14 worms burrowed into his forehead. He also admits that he often considered suicide. He was lost for 20 days in the jungle before he was found by his friend that he had originally planned to do the journey with. How they found each other was a miracle. Yossi saw the boat on the river and was overcome with shock and emotion. He was so happy with how the jungle and Daniel Radcliffe portrayed his ordeal and said that it captured the nightmare that he had been through. He lives a happy life now, speaking motivationally, and has a family of his own. He has quite understandably been putting off traveling to remote places, but still travels on occasion. Let us know if you've seen this movie and what your thoughts were of this incredible story. Number 2, Steve Callahan. The next story is our longest suffering survivor. Steve Callahan was missing and stranded for 79 days after he attempted to sail the Atlantic by himself at the age of 29. He had been traveling for just over a week when something he thinks it was likely a whale or a shark hit the hull of his boat and knocked a hole into it. The water started to fill the vessel fast, leaving Callahan little time to prepare for the sinking as he gathered up his life raft and started to pack what food he could. He was adrift and floating further and further away from his course to the point where he was moving into tropical waters. All the while, he was trying to keep his small raft afloat on very little food and water. He was eventually saved by some fishermen in Guadalupe who pulled him onto their boat and took him back to civilization. He had lost a great amount of weight and couldn't walk for 6 weeks. Steve says, however, that he doesn't regret the time he was lost and says that it helped change him for the better. Number 1, Colby Coombs. Finally, we have Colby Coombs, who is a national outdoor leadership school instructor who got lost when he was on an Alaskan getaway with 2 of his friends back in 1992. During the break, their goal was to ascend Mount Foraker to 17,400 feet high. However, their goal was knocked severely when a storm brewed and caused an avalanche of thick snow to fall upon the mountaineers, knocking them 800 feet down the mountainslide. They were all injured, and when Coombs awoke, he was dangling from his rope, which saved his life. However, he had sustained some injuries. He had fractured bones in his neck, broke his shoulder blade, and fractured his ankle. Sadly, his friends died from their injuries. Despite the pain, Coombs pushed through and descended the mountain until he could reach civilization again and receive treatment. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Have you guys ever been lost before? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Peachy Planet.